This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay, well, it's the joint meeting of the Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership and the Aquifer Protection Committee. It is March 5th at 6:03 p.m. Everyone, hi Donna.
Does she make it? I don't remember how many we need now. Is it 4 now? Because we grew.
Yeah, but if we're not really deciding anything,
It's okay.
Really matter.
I was just wondering if Donna.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Count twice.
It's Lindsay. Excellent. All right, welcome everyone. Do we want to do introductions again? Is that helpful?
I think so. Okay, real quick. Go ahead, Shannon.
I'm Janice Tatro from the Housing Partnership.
Lindsay Rothschild from the Housing Partnership. And Shira Simon from the Housing Partnership.
What's that again?
Shira Simon, Housing Partnership.
Donna Chappello, Housing Partnership and Rent Stabilization.
Patty Gambrini, Pioneer Valley Farms.
Bob Newton, the Aquifer Committee. Mike Serwick, the Aquifer Committee.
Joanna Stacy, Planning Department.
State Council.
Annual Planning Director. On the agenda, we had public speak. Is there anyone here to speak about something that's not on the agenda? All right, moving on. All right, so we're here to talk our continued discussion about zoning recommendations, and I think you all have some had to talk about. Okay. Does anyone have updates on things they want to share?
Do you want to set context, Kaim, and then I can maybe hit highlights?
Yeah. So in response to our last meeting, we're potentially setting up a scope to just gather more information related to the aquifer and potential impacts of any zoning changes. Patty reached out to Dr. Hare and Dr. Bout at the Mass Hydrogeology Lab to see if they could put something together. They did. We had a meeting with them earlier today where they were, specifically Dr. Hare, who would be doing most of the work if we decided to move forward, presented the proposal. And, you know, it looks good. It looks like it's exactly what we asked for so far. And we sort of gave our initial feedback. We wanted to bring it to this group and collect more feedback before getting another version. I know that there are some questions about funding sources and what specific things we want to highlight or potentially change in the scope, but I'll let Patty clarify or expand on that.
Sure. And for me, the meeting today was really just to get some clarification on some things because I'm not a scientist. I love science. So essentially it is a study to create a model through, and I don't know if it's called an app, but something called ModFlow. And what they're proposing to do is create a model that would then, we could plug in different scenarios into it in terms of different zoning and coverages in the Zone 2 area with housing, and get some feedback in terms of groundwater levels. I think that was, how much recharge there would be. And the other piece was some indication of water quality impact using salt as a proxy essentially for, all contaminants. There are two parts to it because this is a 2-year grant that we're it's sort of laid out in 2 parts. And the first phase is a lot of data discovery and acquisition, going through a lot of the studies that are out there already on the Barnes Aquifer, and then modeling. And I guess in that second stage, there would be some more public engagement around the model, what the findings are. And I think specifically they mentioned the Conservation Commission and Planning Board so that everyone sort of understands what we're moving towards. There are some optional pieces that are included beyond the sort of base development of the model, and that sort of throwing in the scenarios. And so we talked about the importance of this as a decision-making tool for the city. And I think those scenario pieces, like the grant makers that we're applying to, like those scenarios, it can't just be building the model. The scenarios kind of have to be part of the mix so that you actually come out with the ability to say, you know, oh, there is an impact and we should think about fine tuning the dials this way, or there really is no apparent impact and it, you know, or there's not the risk we thought there might be. And then Chaim, you had talked about also like ways of looking at surface water impacts from that development. And I believe there was in terms of, so Dr. Hara's access to other resources. She presented to a community roundtable group that I have with water suppliers in the region. And she shared with us satellite imagery that uses, I think it's gravity, to be able to understand how much water is expanding or contracting in places. And so she can integrate sort of information from those kinds of resources she has to address some of the things that I think Chaim was talking about and sort of integrating it so there's a more complete picture around that scenario of development.
Yeah, and if I can just add to that, I think what I was mentioning in the meeting was just bringing in the context of some of the other things that are going on in town and how I think that this work could feed into that and sort of add to the justification for why we want to invest as a community in something like this. Like I know that there's interest in the wetland protection ordinance, so I was bringing in that question to see like, would this work enhance our ability to like protect the wetlands that we have through ordinance or understand how development would impact that in some way. And then I also know we're in the process of applying for grants for a housing production plan. So any decisions or recommendations that makes, I think, would be better if they were informed by a groundwater model or this sort of work. And I also think that, I mean, if quoted, the price was quoted between like $60,000 and $75,000, which to me doesn't seem like an outrageous sum of money for the kind of decision-making ability that this would give us, or it would strengthen our ability to make decisions. So yeah, that's why I like brought that in, because I just think that there could be a case to be made for using like CPA funding or trying to ask the mayor to invest a little bit of free cash into this to just strengthen some of the planning work that we want to do.
Yeah, and that would help with match and grant as well.
So she has, so the proposal would cost, like what she's projecting to do would cost between $60,000 and $70,000. And so there's grants that she could apply for that, or is this part of the grant that you're applying for now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so part of it could be in that. I was just worried that the grant I'm applying for would definitely want to see some scenarios, and that was an add-on. And I didn't work the numbers at all. So when you say 60 to 75, that's with the scenarios in there?
Yeah, that was like
Okay.
with one scenario. Like she sort of laid out sort of a menu of like, there's the phase 1, the phase 2, which costs X and X. And then there's sort of the optional phase where we could do the clay layer mapping and they could do some more scenario planning. Like once they build the model, they can start plugging some numbers into it and telling us what they need. So for each of those, it's like another $8,000, I think is what's
And so if the grant that you're applying for, Patty, wouldn't cover all of this, but could cover part of it because it's connected.
Yeah.
And the idea is we would look elsewhere for other resources. I mean, it doesn't sound very expensive. I thought it was gonna be way more expensive than that.
Yeah, last meeting, large numbers,
Right.
larger numbers floated.
That was for the play
Play, yeah.
using the aerial geophysics, which requires a helicopter, which
Right.
Yeah, right, that just,
That was what-
yeah.
sky is the limit, as they say.
Do you want to talk about what you said at the meeting today about the clay layer and knowing where that is in the sensitivity analysis?
Yeah, so I'll just say a little bit more about the model. She's proposing to use a model called ModFlow, which is the standard model. I've used it. It's used extensively in groundwater studies. It's a process-oriented model. So it's not like a statistical model. It looks at the characteristics in the ground, and it follows precipitation, falls on the ground, and then it moves into the groundwater, and then it comes back up into the stream. So the model she's proposing to do would have some connection of groundwater and surface water, which, if you remember that SWIMMY, which doesn't seem to be going anywhere, and it's my fault, how appropriate.
That's my alarm.
Swimming calling you.
Like really.
No, it's-
It's time to wake up.
It's my daughter calling me.
Yeah.
She's not gonna talk to
Put me on speaker.
Yeah, yeah.
us. Right.
I know, it's like, yeah.
You don't want that. But it follows the water through the system, which is why I think it can address pretty easily in a broad way what Chaim was suggesting in terms of, well, can it be connected to wetlands? Yeah, maybe not as well as you'd like, but it will give us some information about that. So to make the model work, you need to know all this information about the subsurface materials. And you need to know how permeable they are, how extensive they are, how thick they are. All of that is kind of critical information. Fortunately, or perhaps unfortunately, for the person doing the modeling, we have a tremendous amount of information in stacks of reports that are literally feet thick, that has lots of information. And so one of the things she's proposing to do is to take this information, synthesize it, and put it into a GIS system so that after this, we would have access to that whenever we had questions, which would be a really good resource. So there's that fallout, which would be beneficial, I think. And then, but there are issues like, I don't think we know enough about the extent of the clay layer, which I talked about last time. But that's my opinion. You know, and I'm kind of old and opinionated, and does it really matter the way I think it does? The model will help tell us how well we need to know that. So she can build the model, and I can say, well, what do you get for results if the clay is not here, but 1,000 feet over there? What is that something that's going to make any difference? And that we call that doing a sensitivity analysis. How sensitive is the input that we're putting into the model to the output? If some of the stuff we need to know is not that important, then we don't have to put money and effort into finding those things out. But those things that are important, then we might have to do more information to get the model to do what we want it to do, and for us to have a lot of faith in it. So that's called sensitivity analysis. And I would propose that, well, let's not do the clay first. Let's get all the information we have together, build the model, and ask the model, how well do we need to know that? And hopefully that can happen. And the other thing that that was in the proposal that I think is really important, and perhaps in my mind, almost the most important thing, is that she built in some interactions during the project when they're doing this, and that they would present to Pioneer Valley and to the town a couple times during the project, so that the things that you're interested in knowing will be modeled, and the modelers are doing that. Because if you just give it to them at the beginning, your interest might change a little bit, and you don't know where they're going to go. They're modelers; they could do anything. You got to keep a pretty good rein on them. So I think that interaction would be most beneficial to everybody. So I think that's Danielle's really into building that kind of cooperative work. And we may find that Pioneer Valley can provide information, or maybe the town can provide, the city can provide information. Sorry, I'm a little old.
Was a town, not too.
Was a town for most of the time. I was here. Yeah. So anyways, I think all of that is beneficial. And I would say that really, I think what the three of us are interested in doing is building a modeling effort that would be cooperative more than just hand them some information and they come back at the end and say, this is what it is. I think we need to have lots of interaction.
I wanted to add one other thing that popped to my mind as you were talking is we also talked about sort of the extent of the study. And it's not going to stop at municipal lines because we looked quickly at a mass mapper. And if you look at the boundary where Southampton and Easthampton meet, the parcel sort of lines are very, very different. And so, one thing is, if there are zoning changes here, that Southampton is having a lot of housing pressures as well, that, they might follow suit. So that, we take those scenarios and, it's wider than just the area we're talking about in Easthampton.
Yeah, I think that Patty, Mike, and I are, we're from the days of BayPAC when it was a regional look at groundwater. And I think, to me, that's implicit, that it's not just Easthampton. And I think the proposal as was written was for Broad Brook watershed. Well, the Broad Brook goes into Southampton, goes into Holyoke a little bit. So I think, yeah, we should be cooperating with those other towns and looking at it as a regional act. After all, I believe Easthampton will provide. We're cross-connected to Southampton, right? Yeah. So we already have this relationship between our groundwater and their water use, so that this just is an extension of that.
And I think that's another reason to potentially bring them into the process, see if they're willing to help out financially. And because based on what you were saying, Patty, it's almost like they would have more to gain in some ways than Easthampton would in allowing this information.
Sounds great.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
I always have questions. You talked at first about this big stack of data, and is that something that is already included in a grant that has been provided, or?
Where did it come from?
Well, I'm a little confused about, you talk about this other person or this other entity that's also writing a grant, and I'm a little confused about who that is and if that grant already exists or if it's been written and has been granted. And if it has been written and granted, does it include the kind of synthesis of the data that you described?
So it hasn't been written.
Okay.
We contacted Danielle to say, could you do this project? Patty said, well, maybe I can put it into this proposal
Yeah,
that would get us some funding.
right.
So it doesn't exist. Now, in terms of the stack
Yeah.
of data, that has a long history.
Yeah.
Starting from, what was the Mott report in 19? Yeah, so, it goes back many, many years for all kinds of reasons. Trichloroethylene, many studies of trichloroethylene, they put a bunch of geoprobes in all over and took measurements. And when the city was looking for water from time to time, they did a bunch of contracted companies to go out and see where the water was. And there's lots of information from that. So there are a whole wide range of reasons that the city contracted with consulting firms to get subsurface information.
Yeah,
And so there's lots of this.
yeah, I understand that. And my question had more to do with whether the grant that you're coordinating with has, takes into consideration taking all of that information rather than establishing new information.
Yeah, and that's the first part of what Danielle is proposing, is taking all of
So
that.
that's phase,
her
that's the
first
phase one.
phase, yeah,
Okay,
is really looking at,
Okay.
at that and integrating it into the model.
okay, I get it.
And
Yeah,
just
thank
an
you both.
additional piece, the first phase, she estimated would take about 10 months. And then the second phase, a year. So this would be a very detailed dive into all of the existing data.
I think the 10 months is optimistic. I've gone through those reports.
So the reports are housed where?
Is that all on the APAC website? Do we
No.
have, no, this is outside of.
Well, some of it is.
Sound like a lot.
Some of it I have some of it. It's stuff that was going to get thrown out at points because it's a lot of paper and it's tough to go through. I've had students try to put it into geodatabases, and some of that's been done, but it's a big task to try and do it. It really is. We have some of it. I had a Hampshire student who did his Div 3 on building a mod flow model for the Easthampton Aquifer. His purpose was to see if the Northampton landfill expansion would contaminate the Maloney well. But he did a really good job of taking the information and putting it into a geodatabase that with a GIS system that could then be imported pretty easily into ModFlow. In fact, he did that. But that was, when was Northampton expanding their landfill? Probably most people don't even remember that.
2014?
Yeah. But anyway, so it's a big task, but if you have that, once you have that information, you can use it for all kinds of questions, to answer all kinds of questions. So, and I think the goal of this is different than what I would do modeling. My questions would be more hydrologic and directed toward more, I don't want to say scientific, but more direct questions than what I see zoning as being. And it's, I'm kind of excited at the opportunity to see if this model can be of help in answering and giving you confidence in the decisions that you make, that you're making the right decision and not just listening to someone's opinion, but having the model integrate everybody's information.
When would she want to start? Does she have a timeline? Like she would need to start it in July or in September or?
Well, the grant probably won't be awarded until, I was hopeful because they moved the grant up forward. And I thought, okay, so they're trying to like make awards so that we'll be in sync with the next state fiscal year. But I was told like, don't have your hopes up. Like, so, yeah, so it could be September, October that we'll hear about the grant. Maybe August. And then it, you know, the whole subcontracting thing. But I've worked with Dave Bout out of UMass on the last phase of the work we've been doing. And he was able to expedite contracting at UMass, which was huge.
I think we shouldn't assume we will get the grant.
Right.
I mean,
It's super competitive.
I
Super,
have
super
total
competitive.
faith in you, but I also know that getting grant money in today's environment is very, very difficult.
Yeah, and the state might, you know, they might say, well, these elements fit exactly with what we want to fund through this program. And, you know, we're competing against so many other applications in the state.
What's the submission deadline?
March 20th.
Oh,
But it's through a new portal and I want 3 days to like be able to make sure it gets in there right.
So it seems like we should also be actively looking at other funding sources. Because
Yeah.
whether or not you get the grant, it sounds like this is a good direction to go. And so,
And how much, so it's, what you're applying for, this is just a piece of what you're applying for. So is there, you know, are you, if it's $75,000, are you including, you know, 25 in your grant? Like, do we know, or are you putting the whole thing in?
Well, I think I was talking about 50 initially, but if I do that, like the only pieces to pluck out like that are phase 1 and phase 2, which doesn't include the scenario pieces,
which your grant wants.
which would make the case to
Right,
include
so
this
it's
in
like-
there.
So if, when is the submission deadline? March, like,
March 20th.
okay.
Yeah.
Because if we had like if we had a commitment from like money from the city,
That would help with match.
that would help with the match, yeah.
Oh, you're talking about MVP.
Yes. Yeah. Are you applying for an MVP grant?
Competitors.
Is it on drink? It's not on drinking water.
2.3 million is where we're at. No, it's slope stabilization off of Emerald Place.
Oh, okay.
That's what kind of stabilization?
So the road doesn't fall.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I used to live in that neighborhood. It was,
So you know.
yeah,
It's sloped.
it's just being eaten by the
It's the
hell.
worst game of bocce I've ever
I almost
played.
like threw my like stroller off the edge there. Walking along. I not through it, but like.
Half drop, not really funny, but it's.
I just remember walking.
But something like this doesn't seem like a natural fit with CPA,
Yeah.
No.
right? It's not, does not.
Right.
Time
That's why
housing, so.
immediately. I
It's
thought
not
that.
really
I live in
any other.
Easthampton,
funding?
across from me, just down there, there's like a park,
There's some
and
drinking
around
water.
the park is all housing around the park.
Yeah.
That's where it is.
So usually land
Across.
There's the land
Oh, across the
acquisition.
pond on the other
Yeah,
side.
I think so.
Okay, yeah.
They're
Where the
cemetery.
cemetery is, and you can see where some of the graves have actually started to, some of the gravestones have started to slip down.
No, the other side of the
The other side of the
So-
cemetery.
A question, so the end product that we
Yeah.
get from this, we'll have the
Yeah,
model
right?
Yeah.
that could be used for future
Oh, okay.
inquiries or explorations.
Okay. Got it.
Will we have and there'll be some scenarios, but in terms of how we take this model and have something kind of concrete that we can use for the zoning recommendations and large-scale planning, is that going to be an additional step beyond this?
So I think that as we talked today, we're still putting it together. So I don't think we can say for sure what the final point at this moment in time will be. But I think for this to work, it's going to have some scenario things, which I think are going to be centered on housing. So I think that would be for sure that would be done. So that the
Or
question would
advisory.
be, the question would be, if we change it, I'll rephrase it because I think you did a better job. If we cover over 10% more of the recharge area in the plains, will that negatively impact the amount of water that is available in Hendrick Street and Nonotuck Park and the Pines Wells? Okay, so is that what will be the impact of that? So we'll have an answer to that question. In addition, I will predict that we will also have an answer. SWMI says, or said in 2011, was it that? Is that right?
I think it started then, yeah.
Okay, so whenever, but it's been a long time, but they targeted the Broadbrook Aquifer as being stressed by overuse. Okay, now Mike doesn't agree with that. My first reaction was I don't agree with it either, but I didn't really know what they did. But so there's some question about whether that's a valid analysis. They did a computer model. Oh, they use ModFlow too. Well, you can get a model to tell you anything you want if you're, what the questions you're asking. But in any case, I think we will come out at the end of this with an answer to that question. Is the aquifer under stress now or not? So I think that is another answer we will have for sure at the end of this. And then what I see as the end is that you'll have a model, so it'll exist, that has all this data associated with it. And if 3 years later you come back and say, well, we want to build a mall on the
Park.
Nonotuck Park. We want to turn that into IKEA wants to build
Trader Joe's.
And so we would be able to take that model and answer that question. We wouldn't be able to do that directly, but presumably that the UMass group would be able to answer that question. And with the way I read it, it would cost $8,000. So, which would be pretty much a bargain because it's all built, ready to go, and it's set up to answer these kinds of questions.
I have a question. If you have a model like that, because I know like some of the GIS apps that we've created, there's like a maintenance fee that has to be paid over time. Does ModFlow do you have to have a subscription and maintenance for maintaining a model in some?
I didn't ask her what
part of the plan?
version. There are all kinds of ModFlow is open source. It's a USGS open source model. It runs in Fortran. If you've ever heard the name Fortran, it's a programming language.
I was excited. I knew
This is the most I've understood this whole meeting, honestly. I'm pretty excited.
So it's like Latin. It's like Latin. And so nobody can speak Latin anymore. So other companies have built front ends for this and say, oh, you can use ours where you don't have to speak Latin and it will, you put your information in English and it's able to do it. So there are various versions of these programs. There's one called Visual ModFlow. And so there are many that are out there and some are open source that don't cost it. I have a version sitting on that computer that's open source. So I don't know what the UMass group will use, but I don't see that it's going to be like GIS, ArcMap, Esri charges for everything right now.
Yeah.
So it's not like that. It doesn't mean though that all those front ends are constantly changing because that's their business model. And so you always have to buy new versions or update or something, but that's the modeling group's problem.
Okay, I was just wanting to make sure there's long-term viability of the model once it's built.
Yes,
Okay.
and that's always going to be an issue because these things keep changing. And you know, they'll work on this one, but the next version may not work on this. And it's like anything that's got computers in it, it's going to be more cost through time.
That tends to be the beauty of open source stuff, is that people maintain it themselves over time too. So I don't know anything about this, but I know about open source software, and I know that tends to be less of an issue. Plant obsolescence tends to be less of an issue in open source software than proprietary software.
Yes. But you've got to have people who are going to work in the open source, work on the code. And Fortran doesn't work with this computer very well because this computer has different protocols. So if you don't have someone that knows how to do the analysis from Fortran to whatever you're using, that it doesn't, what happens is the open source stuff doesn't get updated to operate with the new systems, and it falls behind. I don't know if you use UGET. Do you use UGET? It's this open version of software that you use to download lots of data. So if you want LiDAR data, the USGS has a library of that data. The only way from the USGS is using this open source software called UGET, which has not been updated in 5 years. It's been abandoned. And so now you have those kinds of problems. But I don't think we should worry about that.
You can't get it, or you have to pay for it.
No, you can't.
Can't even get it.
Well, you can get the open source software, but it won't work with my computer.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you have Windows software and it gets updated like every 2 weeks. And if you don't get those updates, then things don't work. So that's the problem with open source.
Or you get the update and what used to work doesn't work anymore.
Exactly.
That's just my experience.
Did you have any other questions?
Well, so, I mean, what's our next step?
Find the money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where's
and I
the money?
guess
So-
for the grant, I need a letter of commitment. And, you know, something about match. So a letter of commitment saying that the city's really interested in this and invested in it. And then if there's a possibility of, you know, additional funds, it would be great for that letter to say that.
So would that have to come from the mayor's office, or could it come from the city council or from us?
For the planning department?
I mean, anything with funds can't come with plan. I can't promise that.
Put a letter of commitment that says we're really excited about this and it will help.
So that's more like a letter of support. and
Yeah.
A letter of commitment to assist.
It's come from the mayor's office, I imagine.
Yeah, so it could have in kind in it too.
Length and magnitude. Yeah.
And technical.
Yeah.
I got like 50 cents.
I mean, do you think would the city have any other funding and somewhere hidden that, not hidden, but like discretionary funding that would support this?
Fair question.
Yeah.
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 Just there.
Just got $3 million in free cash.
We only need $60,000 to $75,000. It's like a
Do you think
bargain.
Southampton has any money to?
I don't know.
No.
If you follow their funding issues.
Are you just contemplating the override? Did I see that in the paper or maybe that was another town?
They could chip it off.
They defeated.
South
Hadley,
South Hadley needs no.
Oh, South Hadley, yeah.
Oh, so you
All
don't
the,
think, you don't think they'll want
communities
to
are
throw us
struggling
10
because the
grand or
insurance,
I saw him.
Insurance increases.
insurance increases, which the employer pays part of, and it's been really dramatic over the last like 2 years. So most communities are in a deficit for this past fiscal year and have to make up for that and then budget additional for the coming fiscal year. So the free cash gets tapped into most often for that.
Cough, cough, single payer, cough, cough.
But you're
I've
on
been
a time
coughing about
crunch
that
because
for
you
about
have
12
to
years
submit
now.
this by March 20th. So
2 weeks.
so if the city was going to be able to provide any letter of anything, we would need to figure out how to make that happen quickly.
Yeah.
But who
The mayor's
approaches the
office.
mayor?
So who,
Like
yeah,
who
approaches?
approaches the mayor?
The mayor, is that what we're pointing
Like
at?
me?
You and Kath, yeah.
Okay.
Counselor Dedham's just like whiteboard. Oh, whiteboard.
Like with an email?
No, I think a meeting. I think it's really important to sit down with him and I would explain this, like the far-reaching, of what this could impact. And also, if we have a bunch of data that's sitting there right now, but it's not useful to the city right now, and it's that we're making data accessible for not only this project, but other projects. The price tag's not really that high, it sounds like, for kind of information we could be getting. And we could be a model city in terms of looking at things this way. And
I'm sorry, Pat, how much do you think the city needs to provide?
Well, I didn't go through the numbers. I saw the part A and B.
So I
And
guess
then
I'm sorry, how much
scenarios.
were you planning to include in
I think 50,000.
for this part?
Yeah.
so that'd be
Um,
25.
Another 25 or 30.
Yeah.
It's not huge.
Just,
And I mean, like, say this again, like, we're talking about the senior center and like what sort of impact that'll have on the Broadbrook area. And like, I just, I think that this can be,
any kind of development is gonna bring up these questions. If we
Right.
don't have an ability to answer them, we're gonna be stymied. So
Yeah, no,
senior centers, skate parks.
and our
Yeah.
water is like one of the resources that we want to
so
keep to the future. I
so
mean,
yes.
water,
Yeah.
we're facing a global water shortage.
Yes.
And say that.
So maybe that should be memorialized in a memo from our committee to the mayor's office in conjunction with, a sit down.
Now
Mayor.
you're all looking at me like.
Go meet with the
You
mayor.
have time.
I think
Yes.
it's
Take care of
DPW.
I'll go. I'll go with you.
Oh, I don't know.
So I think a joint letter from the Aquifer Protection
Yeah.
Committee, Housing Partnership would be good.
Yeah.
And try to identify funds.
Well, I think we could
To
send
include in the
a
letter.
joint memo. This is what we're
Oh, to the
doing.
mayor,
This is,
yeah.
this is what we're working on. This is what we've identified we need. This is how much it's gonna cost. These are all the amazing benefits of why we need this.
Mhm.
I'm just personally worried about timing because that means I would need to meet with the mayor next week
Mhm.
in order to meet your timeline. I don't know that I could do that personally with work. So we could maybe mayor, meet.
Would one of you?
Is anyone else able to assist?
I can certainly assist, but I'm not.
I have the time, but I'm not sure I'd be able to present it well. Because
Why don't we start?
I can
with-
present it if you need someone to
Well, that's
present
right.
it.
You are the one who needs to present the importance of why we need it.
Yeah,
I think at the very least, we could vote to authorize the memo.
we can authorize
Yes.
them.
So do you have a meeting coming up?
And
Yeah.
what did you say? Invite him to the meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Oh,
Let me look at this.
the Aquifer Committee has a meeting Wednesday.
And would you be inviting the housing partnership to join you?
You'd have to.
Yeah,
Why
no,
is it that way, but
We're always welcome.
We can sit on the sideline.
We can sit on the side.
As long as,
Yeah.
do we have to not have a
11.
quorum?
oh geez.
I don't understand the quorum. Sorry.
It doesn't matter.
If we don't talk about
If we're
anything.
at another meeting, can we have, is it okay if we have
So
four
we don't
people?
talk about anything.
Yes,
It's
but you
at
just
11.
can't talk.
Temper your expectations. It's not.
What time is it?
It's at 11 in the morning.
Oh.
So, in case I thought it was gonna be.
Their meetings at 11 a.m.?
Yeah.
You guys meet at 11 a.m.? Good for you. I don't get up that early.
But he's not available anyway.
Neither do I.
I'd like to meet at 11.
Not at that time.
Okay.
So I guess, so to piggyback on what you just said, so we could authorize me to draft the memo. I would probably need some support.
Yeah, I could also
From
help.
all of you in making sure it sounds accurate. We could plan to send it, like by Monday. And we could request a meeting. And give a time, like and see when he's available, and then we can work together to make ourselves available. Does that seem like a?
Yeah, I mean, so someone from the planning department can be there,
So
but
that'd be
we've already asked him for a lot of money in just the last 2 days. So I feel like
We don't
not
want
going to mean very much coming from us at this point.
Well, especially if, like, I mean, if we're committing, if they receive the grant, that's like, I don't know, I feel like that's an added weight because we're saying, hey, if they're bringing this money, the planning commission is bringing this money to Easthampton and the majority of it, then we like looking at gift horse in the mouth.
Well, right, and if we don't get the grant, then
That he's not committed.
nothing's committed, and then we could start,
Big sales.
looking for a different big sales, finding a different source.
A lot of muffins.
Yeah. Everybody start baking.
You get a benevolent billionaire.
Yeah, or
Girl
benevolent,
Scouts can do it.
benevolent billionaire.
Someone
Not
call
that
Melinda
much.
Gates.
It's like,
It's not that much money. When we were talking about the helicopter and it was $500,000, that felt like a very challenging situation. $75,000, I feel like.
So start there.
Yeah. So first we want 500.
so we have option A, 500,000.
Involves a helicopter.
Option B.
For the city.
If we could
Promise you can
doors,
ride
like, you know,
Like lots happening.
Yeah.
We're open to either option.
Either one works for us, but this is the cheaper version. Okay. I can work on a memo. I do have a copy of the proposal, and you all could help me, and then we can send it to him like early next week and see if we can get a meeting before your deadline, which feels very soon.
Yes. There's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
This being one of them.
Oh, gosh.
And the other thing is Daniela is going to revise this based on some of the things we talked about, like the case making, especially like the importance of the need for more housing, but wanting to respect resource areas and not create greater risk. So she's going to do that, and I think it'll be a lot more powerful.
I think that sounds good. Do you want to?
Make a motion.
We should make yes, you can make a motion.
I would like to make a motion that the housing, I'm sorry, I'd like to make a motion that we write a memo to the mayor and outlining this. What am I saying?
And you're authorizing me to write
I'm
it.
authorizing you, make a motion to authorize Jana to write a memo,
Summarizing this discussion.
summarizing this discussion and requesting a meeting.
moved. So moved.
Moved.
No, just say second and then you're good.
Yeah, second.
Seconded.
Do we have to
Chair
vote?
sheet.
Do we have to choose two different motions for both committees?
I think so.
Maybe we should meet at 11 a.m.
Housing partnership motion. So we have
Yeah,
a
housing.
motion and a second, and we have to have a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. So then you all have to make a motion.
Follow Lindsay's
Oh, my
excellent
beautiful.
example.
If you want.
Just the two of us, so I duplicate the motion. Oh, there we go. I'll second. Well, yeah, okay. Yes, aye.
Okay.
Only it's on behalf of the
Excuse me?
aquifer, only it's on behalf of the aquifer.
Okay.
or
I got
coordination.
confused when I started. Housing, partnership, I was gonna say commission.
All right. Thank you. So I will work on that and I will connect with Patty and Bob and Kyle over the weekend.
I mean, I think I had one other thing, but in the interest of time, I feel like this is a conversation for a later date. I think that there might be some things that won't, as part of the rest of the proposal, the zoning proposal, that won't necessarily be impacted by what we learn in this study. So I want to like figure out how we can pull some stuff out and potentially move that forward. But because I know this is going to be a 2-year process, and I definitely want to make sure we're thorough with that, with the things that are going to have impacts. But there are some things that I think that even if it was just cutting out the R40 or something to move forward on other stuff, that would be a good discussion to have. But it's a can of worms that I feel like we don't need to open today.
Well, we'll have a long time to have that conversation.
Yeah.
All right. That sounds good. I agree. All right. Anything else? I have a motion to, or do you, what you were going to say?
I was just gonna say, what do we do what does Patty do if we don't have the letter in time? Does that mean if we don't submit?
I think it has to be with a grant. Like that piece
Yeah,
would
like
be
package
included.
So we need to, someone needs to talk to the mayor
Yeah.
immediately
Okay.
and get a sense of what he will want before he will agree to signing on to that memo. I mean,
Yeah.
I think, I would hope that, if you're gonna get 50,000,
That's what I was saying.
it would, and it's iffy, but if you get the 50,000, you ought to be able to do something in terms of a 10% match. You ought to be able to find that money, to at least agree to that.
Yep.
And then if we do get the grant and we start the project and we find out that we need more money, then we could address that down the road. But I think we want to make sure that we can apply for this 50,000.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if someone can talk to the mayor
I think you would be,
tomorrow,
could you?
but I've
Yes.
never met the mayor.
I don't mind
He's
talking.
in your
I've
neighborhood.
met the mayor.
Really?
I think right like across Main Street from you.
Really?
I think
I don't
so.
mind trying to, I mean, I don't know what his schedule is on Fridays, but I will, I have some time to reach out to him tomorrow to at least say, this is coming, he's well aware of the zoning report because he was on the ordinance committee when we went through it. So he's well aware of this. So I think to say, we've been meeting with the Aquifer Protection Committee, we're working on this thing. I'm gonna send you a memo on Monday. I need you to pay attention.
And I
We
am,
have a brief call next week about this.
I'm happy to meet with him almost any time. My time is fairly flexible.
And I might amend what you said about 10% and at least go for the 8,000 for one scenario. If we're not gonna do the 25 or 30 that Chaim suggested.
Well, I think,
Well, that's fine.
I think
Let's
we
start
should
at-
ask for the 500,000.
Yeah.
And then we can fall back from there.
Okay.
You're exactly right. We
Okay.
shouldn't start low.
No. Start at 25 and
Okay, all right, I will reach out tomorrow and I'll work on the memo and then we'll get that to you early next week.
Shanna, when you get your rough memo done or rough draft done, if you want to send it to me, I'm happy to
Sure,
edit.
sure. Okay,
Get the main thoughts down and I can.
And then if we can't, if we can't get a letter or we can't meet with them, we could try to strategize like a backup plan. I don't know.
We can forge it.
Voice on camera.
This is a public meeting.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree to
Just
that.
kidding.
None of us would agree to that.
Silly, silly.
We're talking about iron.
Okay, I think this is a good idea. Good plan. Anything else? All right, we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right.
Oh, wait. Motion to adjourn. Then second.
Still.
Oh.
Not yet. All right. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to stop the recording.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.